Good. So hoping it doesn't get me in the black. Oh. I believe the name is Joshua. This is a Shall We Date Timo's story. It used to be Timo and Paul's story, but now I'm on Timo's because this is a selected story route. So here we go. I grimace. Only he's been working so hard lately that I get the feeling he'll go right to bed without eating anything. I know I'm tired, and I was only up with him for one night. After several days with almost no sleep, I suspect food's going to be about the last thing on his mind. However, if I order him something ahead of time, maybe then he'll actually eat it. That's a good idea. Josh happily nods in agreement. I suspect your consideration alone will go a long way towards keeping him sustained. Now you're just being silly. I am embarrassed by Josh's remark. I quickly wrap my arms around the pillow, hoping to conceal the bashful grin on my face. I then lean back against the sofa. It feels so pleasant sitting there, clutching the pillow that I gradually began to drift off. MC, what are you doing? Meanwhile, an hour after Cecily's arrival, Timo finally returns home to Lilac Court. Oh, come on, Timo. Oh, I've been waiting for you. You have? Lilac Court's manager shows up to greet it. Lilac Court's manager shows up to greet him. Timo returns his greeting with a puzzled look. Unfortunately, I won't be staying long. I've only returned to take a shower. Is that right? I heard you worked all night last night. Don't tell me you're heading right back again. That's my intention. Do you still have a problem with it? In that case, at least stop by the cafe before you go, and let me make you a cup of coffee. I'm sorry, but I don't have time. I understand you're quite busy. No matter how rudely Timo responds, Josh continues to smile. Timo finally lets out a sigh and nods after realizing continuing to refuse would sound childish. It's impossible to say for sure, but given his apparent discomfort, he seems unaccustomed to receiving other people's concern. Albacore, it's strong, European style to help you keep awake and put it in a thermos so you can take it to work. That sounds a little feminine. I need to grandpa my voice. Because, I don't know, Josh with the gray hair, I'm sorry, but Timo is supposedly younger. So, if Josh should be with a slightly younger voice, let me know in the comment section. Before returning to the laboratory, Timo pokes his head into the cafe as requested. Josh is there to greet him with a smile. Thanks. Josh's kindness earns himself quite a nod from Timo. As a parent, Josh never expected Timo would agree to hang around the cafe long enough to drink a cup. I also have some sandwiches prepared. They're wrapped and ready to go. I trust you'll find time to eat them. Sandwiches? Cecilia asked me to make extra for you. She did? Why? Because she's worried about you. She feared you wouldn't take time to eat anything when you arrived home. So she asked me to prepare you something ahead of time. I need male voices. Josh glances warmly towards the sofa, and Timo follows his gaze. You're gonna see MC asleep. Dear. Cecilia is sunk into the sofa's cushions, fast asleep. She must have been pretty tired. She fell asleep while I was still preparing sandwiches for her. She's such a kind girl. Anyhow, Timo, here's your thermos of coffee, and I hope you'll take the sandwiches with you too. Uh-huh. Thanks. I'll be back for them in a second. Something wrong? I'm going to carry her to her room first. Having said that, Timo lifts Cecilia into his arms. She remains fast asleep. Good grief. She can be troublesome, even for a new hire. I told her earlier not to worry about me. Josh notices Timo is wearing a smile. Even the cold-hearted tsundere can never hide his happiness. Several hours later. I roll over and slowly open my eyes. However, it takes me a moment to figure out where I am. Huh? This ceiling looks familiar. I'm in my room? That's odd. I don't remember coming back here. The last thing I remember is asking Josh to make me some sandwiches. My stomach suddenly growls, causing me to blush. Apparently I never had a chance to eat them. Don't tell me I fell asleep in the cafe and Josh carried me back here. I hastily climb out of bed. If true, it's asking a lot of him. I immediately head to the cafe to say thanks. I hope Josh is here. I quietly poke my head in the door. Oh, hi, Cecilia. Did you sleep well? I cover my mouth in embarrassment as Josh smiles at me. Uh-huh. I asked you to make me something to eat, then fell asleep on you, didn't I? I'm sorry, and thank you very much for carrying me back to my room. That wasn't me. It wasn't? That was Timo. He decided to carry you back when he saw you sleeping on the sofa. Really? I'll have to thank him too. I realize I'm starting to blush and suspect it's not simply due to embarrassment. In case you're wondering, Timo is back at work. He was barely here long enough to take a shower. He went back, huh? Not surprising. I mean, I know how he feels. But I just wish he'd let others help so he can rest. He did take some sandwiches with him, though. Your consideration was well received. He did? That's great. Josh smiled at me for some reason. I can't bring myself to look him in the face. MC? Dear. Why do I feel so self-conscious all of a sudden? All of a sudden. Josh, you may not know this, but right now, Timo's doing an entire team's workload on his own. All on his own. As I hesitantly began explaining to Josh, I realized I'm looking for some kind of consolation. It certainly seems that way. I'm worried about him, and I suspect I should go see how he's doing. I just hope he won't get upset. Why not? I'm sure he will appreciate your concern. Besides, it should give him some encouragement. You think so? Regardless of how aloof he acts, having your support and understanding is certainly encouraging enough for him, even if only subconsciously. My understanding, huh? I like the sound of that. I pondered Josh's comment for a moment. He seems to know exactly what I want to hear. When I think about it, I suppose I do want to understand Timo better. He may be awkward, but he can be very kind. I want to help smooth out all the difficulties he's having. Not to mention, I want everyone else to see what a great person he is. This is the first time I've ever felt that way about anyone. Well, yeah, when you're not cornered with Paul, of course Timo's the best option. He's not forcible or aggressive with relationships. And he's definitely a good boy. For a place that's dedicated to animal studies, the laboratory can be awfully quiet at night. I hurry through the silence towards our lab space. I arrive there to find the room empty, with the exception of one man sitting at his desk. Timo. Rose, what are you doing here? I heard you returned to Lalacourt, but didn't even stay long enough to rest. You are already exhausted. Are you sure you're not pushing yourself too hard? I'm worried. You're the one pushing yourself too hard. Didn't you fall asleep on the sofa? Yes, that's how tired I was after staying up for one night. I'm sure you're a lot more exhausted than I am. By the way, I heard you carried me to my room. I want to thank you for that. When I express my gratitude, Timo abruptly looks away. You don't need to thank me for that. I hear what sounds like a faint sigh. Listen, stop worrying about my behavior and let me do my work how I choose to. Not only is Timo warning me to keep my distance, he's pushing me away. I respond, oh, I need my book. I need my book. So, dear God. Where are you? Where are you? I'm here. Alfred, Jack, Owen, Edward. Can't pronounce the name because it's Japanese. Georgia Story. Klaus. Dear, how many of these do I have? Lukios, Eugene, Toes, Cecil's, Calisoi, Gordons, Kasumi, Kalis, Zed. No story at all. Alright then. Ow. Am I bothering you? I just want to help you. Oh no. I don't know which one would help me get him a wonderful choice. I'm gonna do this one because I feel like that's more MC. Maybe he feels I'm bothering him? Still. I pause for a moment, then bravely take a step towards Timo. I just want to help you. Timo stares back at me in surprise. My career... words. My career may be a drop in the bucket compared to yours, but there has to be something I can give you a hand with. Will you at least let me try? Rose, you're truly... never mind. I hear a faint hint of surprise in his voice and wonder if I've somehow caught him off guard. Timo quietly stares at me. His silence speaks volumes. I wait patiently and eventually he continues. Did I make a right choice? Yes, I did! Yes! How many more store? Oh, 2 more store tickets. Let's go! Rose, I'm taking a break. Will you have a seat? Sure. I take Timo up on his offer and sit down, excited by the possibility that he seems interested in talking. Indifferent to your curiosity, I'll tell you a little about my previous workplace. What you do with that knowledge is your business. That sounds great. I'd love to hear about your past. I firmly nod. With some hesitation, Timo starts talking. Where I used to work, we had a similar incident with an animal having its bones shattered. I was told to start rehabilitation as soon as possible. I followed instructions, but it was futile, whatever. During rehabilitation, the injury grew worse. The pain eventually sent the animal into shock. That's awful! I objected, but the rest of the team wouldn't listen. They insisted I needed to be more flexible. If I'd only stood my ground and forced them to put off rehabilitation, that animal never would have had to suffer. That's why I have no intention of backing down this time. That leopard shouldn't start rehabilitation until it's had time to heal. Why don't you explain this to the others? That way they'll understand what you're doing. My word does... My words don't carry enough weight. I didn't back then, and I'm sure they won't now either. Timo grimly lowers his gaze. I've already expressed what I feel is the right action. It's obvious no one else is listening, which means I can't expect them to eventually understand. So I'm left with doing what I think is best. After all this time, I finally realize Timo may appear aloof, but he's actually quite conscious of how his coworkers view him. In fact, he may even feel his inability to relate with others threatens his ability to save animals. That would explain why he shuts them out, creating these misunderstandings and isolating himself in the progress. And now he's falling into a vicious cycle. Timo, thanks for telling me all that, but I really think the whole team needs to hear it. I'm sure they probably won't all be easily convinced, but you've already managed to convince me. I told you this because it's obvious to me how passionate you are about animals, which I respect. However, I don't sense the same level of enthusiasm from the other researchers. Timo, stop and think about it. There's a limit to how much one person can do. That's why we work as a team. I'm desperate to break the vicious cycle Timo's in, and I try my best to persuade him. Please, Timo, talk with the other researchers. You really need to share with them what's on your mind. You say you don't expect others to understand you, and yet I like to think I do after hearing your story. There's nothing to be afraid of. Timo quietly stares at me for several seconds before finally responding. And here we are. You sure are cheeky for someone who's my junior. He punctuates his quiet remark with a gentle poke to my forehead. The gesture catches me completely by surprise. I never would have imagined him doing such a thing. His awkwardly intimate contact leaves me with a sense of warmth I've never felt from him before. So, someone understands me, huh? Timo smiles. It's a bright, cheerful smile without a shadow of doubt. Home. The following day. When I arrive at the lab, Timo's already there. The strange thing is, he's talking to one of his coworkers. That's why it has to be around the clock if we want to start the leopard's rehabilitation sooner rather than later. Please listen to me. We need your help. Rose and I are both at our limits. The moment I catch wind of what they're discussing, my heart leaps for joy. Timo took what I said to heart, didn't he? I'm so happy. After all the time managing everything on his own, he's finally discussing things with his coworkers. It's his first step toward sharing his workload with the rest of the team. Forcing the rehabilitation could make it worse. That makes perfect sense. I see the reason for your concern. Yes, and management's decision is to disband the team. If we don't start immediately, it's a poor one. I definitely agree with you on that. Timo smiles when he hears that. Isn't that great, Timo? I'm sure your supporters will only continue to grow in number. We all chose to be animal researchers, so we must think alike on some level, even if we don't agree on everything. As Timo continues to talk, I cheerfully join the ring of co-workers that are gathering to hear his enthusiasm. Oh. Nice going, Timo. Timo finally takes a break from talking, and I step closer and whisper in his ear. When I do, he abruptly jerks his head around as if caught by surprise. No way, he's blushing? Thanks. He then hesitantly nods, an unusual gesture for him. To be honest, I'm quite surprised by the results. I'm so glad you managed to convince some of the others. I have you to thank for it, Rose. He quietly whispers back. Otherwise, I never would have taken that first step. I think it's because they all recognize you for your abilities as a researcher. So when you placed your trust in them, they were quick to recuperate. I can't read. Recuperate. I can't read. I can't words. All humans have a tendency to react in kind, don't you think? If you push people away, they'll do the same. But once you open up your heart just a little, that's all it takes to thaw the ice again. Hopefully now things will start going smoothly. Suddenly my outlook is bright and cheerful. Oh, yay! We ended on a high note. Okay, well, if I have a little more time today, I will definitely do Ninja Shadow and Haruyuki. I need to look at Ninja Shadow because I haven't read any of the stories on my laptop for a long time. And I haven't been doing Shall We Date games recently because my focus is mainly on Obey Me and Obey Me Nightbringer. So I may have to read a bit of Ninja Shadow before I record for my next video. Because if I don't do all the Shall We Date games for this week, Ninja Shadow, Guard Me Sherlock, Lost Alice. I won't do Obey Me yet, but if I can gain access to my first Android phone, I'll definitely record through that because my first Android phone, I cannot speak. My first Android phone has Obey Me and Obey Me Nightbringer fresh, so I haven't touched those. But my second Android, I already touched both games, and I'm maybe at the beginning-ish, but I focused more on getting leveling up the cards so they could be 100, like my laptop original Obey Me. And I know that on the iPhone I have more than a few 100 Obey Me cards, so yeah, Obey Me is my main focus when I'm not voice acting for my other Shall We Date games. But I need to go back on the characters because I can't pronounce names. So, sure. Alright, well, if not today, maybe Friday or before this weekend. If not, next week we'll be browsing again from Blood and Roses. And, well, I always start every week with Blood and Roses, so if you haven't seen any of my others, I apologize for not showing more of the other Shall We Date games their voice, because I am stuck to Blood and Roses here. Alright, well, I've made this video / live stream long enough, so till the next live / video, bye Shall We Date fans, and next is Ninja Shadow. If I don't get to that this week, I'll definitely go back to Blood and Roses next week. So, bye again. This game really trips me out.